Hi guys, in this video we are going to do a question which is called as TISA company, where we'll discuss about value at risk and cost of capital and other capital appraisal. This is a very typical capital appraisal question, so this is for 25 marks. So without any further delay, let's go ahead into the question. So TISA company is considering an opportunity to produce an innovative component which, when fitted into motor vehicle engines, will enable them to utilize fuel more efficiently. The component can be manufactured using either process omega or process zeta. Although this is an entirely new line of business for TISA company, it is of the opinion that developing either of these processes over a period of 4 years and then selling the production rights at the end of the fourth year to another company may prove lucrative. The annual after-tax cash flows for each process are as follows. So we are given two processes, omega and process zeta, and they have given you the yearly after-tax cash flows. So you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So this is the initial investment, and then subsequently year on year, what are the cash flows that we are getting after the taxes. So you can see 3800, 3800. So these are comparable. So you have to invest exactly same amount, 3.8 million into both these processes, into any of these processes technically speaking. And then process omega is giving you faster cash flows. If you see here, it is giving you faster cash flows initially 1220, 1153, 1386, but at the last year you are getting only 3829, whereas in zeta, if you see, first year you are getting only 600, which is half of omega. Second year also you are getting only 546, which is again half of omega. Third year you are getting 1000, whereas here you are getting 1300. So this is catching up. But fourth year, if you see, we are getting almost all 6000, whereas here you are getting only 3829. So technically omega is giving you faster cash flows, zeta is giving you higher cash flows, but we need to check the present value. But to discount to the present value, we would need the discounting factor, cost of capital or IRR, whatever maybe the question says. So we'll have to check. Most probably it will be weighted average cost of capital. So we'll figure it out. TISA company has 10 million 50-cent shares trading at 180 cents each. Okay, 10 million shares, face value 50 cents, and each share is trading at 180 cents, which is $1.8. Okay, its loans have a current value of 3.6 million and an average after-tax cost of debt is 4.5%. TISA company's capital structure is unlikely to change significantly following the investment in either process. Okay, so this is a very important sentence. As a student, you might not be able to appreciate the internal meaning behind this particular sentence. See, usually when a company invests in a particular project or invest in a particular venture, what happens is the capital structure changes. Currently, for example, if the company is going with 50% equity and 50% debt, that is the structure of the company. Subsequently, if I am entering into a project, and for that particular project, if I am doing entire investment only from equity, so what happens is that will change my capital structure. So that is something that you need to keep in mind whenever you are entering into a project or a particular venture, or whenever you are doing investment. There could be change in the capital structure. If there is a change in capital structure, your weighted average cost of capital also will change. So in order for you not to get confused, the question itself clearly states that TISA company's capital structure is not changing. That means the company is investing in these projects, into one of these projects, in the same proportion in its existing capital structure. So currently, if it is 40/60, this project is also funded 40/60. That is what the question is indirectly hinting you through this particular sentence. Next one, Elfu company. So we are being introduced to another company. Maybe looks like, since we don't have the cost of equity of TISA, they are giving you Elfu company, which is a similar company or something like that, and you have to figure out the asset beta using their company's beta. So our regular de-gearing and re-gearing stuff. So let's see that. Elfu company manufactures electronic parts for cars, including the production of a component which is similar to the one being considered by TISA company. Elfu company's equity beta is 1.4 and it is estimated that the equivalent equity beta for its other activities excluding the component production is 1.25. Elfu company has 400 million 25 cents shares in issue trading at 120 cents each. Its debt finance consists of variable rate loans redeemable in 7 years. The loans paying interest at base rate, that is LIBOR or whatever may be the base rate, plus 120 basis points, that is plus 1.2%, have a current value of $96 million. It can be assumed that 80% of Elfu companies debt finance and 75% of Elfu companies equity finance can be attributed to other activities excluding the component production. Both companies pay annual corporation tax at a rate of 25%. The current base rate is 3.5% and the market risk premium is estimated at 5.8%. So this is useful for your CAPM model. RF plus beta into RM minus RF. So they have given you that RF risk-free rate of return is 3.5%, which is the base rate, and then RM minus RF, that is 5.8%, which is given as the market risk premium. Sorry, wait. Yeah, sounds good to me. Cool, we'll see. Next one, requirements of the question. Guys, I have told you 1,000 times, first start with reading the requirements of the question before you read the entire story. Okay, so then why are you reading requirements at the end? Because I already told you what are the requirements of the question. This is a question based on VAR. This is question selected based on a student's request. So I already know the requirements of the question. That's why I did not read it. But when you guys are doing the questions by yourself, always start with reading the requirements first and then go to the question area. Okay, chalo. Now requirements is first one. Provide a reasoned estimate of the cost of capital that TISA company should use to calculate the net present value of the two processes. Include all relevant calculation. Okay, sir, this is basic degearing, regearing and weighted average cost of capital calculation that is given for 8 marks in your AFM examination. Very pretty straightforward requirement. Second requirement of the question, B. Calculate the IRR and MIRR for process omega, given that the IRR and MIRR of process zeta are 26.6 and 23.3 respectively. Recommend which process, if any, TISA company should proceed with and explain your recommendation. Sir, this keyword is something that 90% of the students miss. I'm repeating again, 90% of the students miss this part. They are fine with calculating IRR and MIRR for process omega. They'll compare that with process zeta 26.6 and 23.3. Then they'll say that okay, TISA company is TISA company has better IRR when they switch to omega or when they switch to zeta or whatever it is. They'll give their conclusion, but you have to explain your recommendations. And also the other most important thing that most of the students miss is that they just compare IRR and MIRR of omega and zeta processes without, repeating it again, without paying attention to the weighted average cost of capital. You have to compare weighted average cost of capital with IRR. If IRR is more than WACC, then only you should accept any project, otherwise you should not. IRR is what? The return which the project is generating. WACC is what? The cost that you have to incur. So if the return is more than the cost, then only we have to accept it. That is the most important part. So 16 marks are pretty straightforward. Next, coming to section C, Elfu company has estimated an annual standard deviation of $800,000 on one of its other projects. Based on a normal distribution of returns, the average annual return on this project is 2.2 million. Sir, average annual return is what? The mean. Mean is 2.2 million and the standard deviation is 800,000. That means the returns usually range between 2.2 minus 0.8, that is what? 1.4 million. Yeah, 2,200,000 minus 800,000, that is 1400,000 if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 1400,000. So 1400 to 2200 plus 800, 3 million. So 1.4 million to 3 million. That is the range in which the distribution of this particular LFU company's returns will range. Given that the statistics, the standard deviation is probably efficient and effectively calculated, or we can say it is appropriately calculated. That is just the range. It does not mean that always it sticks with between that 1400 to 3000 range. No, it can go beyond that, but majority of the time it is within that range bound. That is what they're trying to tell you. Required. Estimate the project's VAR, value at risk, at 99% confidence level. Very good. For 1 year and over the project's life of 5 years. Explain what it is meant by the answers obtained. Again, please understand, you have to explain what is VAR. Okay, and the numbers behind that. Apart from the use of VAR, briefly explain the methods that LFU can use to deal with the risk and uncertainty in this investment appraisal and their drawbacks. Your regular risk and uncertainty related discussions, your expected value calculations, probability into the value, and their drawbacks as well, you have to explain. So these two are very easy scoring area. If you know what VAR is, and if you know that how to deal with risk and uncertainty in investment appraisal, and you can appraise their drawbacks as well, you can easily score this 9 marks in less than 10 minutes. I'm telling you, in 10-15 minutes you can score this 9 marks very easily. So with that being said, let's go ahead into our discussion and we'll start with solving this particular problem. Okay, so I have an Excel sheet with me, so let's check the situation. So first requirement is what? Providing a reasoned estimate of the cost of capital that TISA should use to calculate the NPV of the two processes, including all the relevant calculations. So first we'll start with the beta calculation now. So first we need to understand that I'll start with requirement A of the question. Given data, so it is given that LFU company is a similar company which is dealing with the same things, but the problem is that they are having other activities as well. So we need to exclude the other activities and we need to calculate the beta of this particular relevant activities, and we have to use that to calculate the asset beta of the company. So let's start with that. Where are we? Here. Okay. So LFU company's equity beta is 1.4. Okay. Given LFU company's data, equity beta is given as 1.4. Next one. Okay, well, let's start with the market values as well. TISA company has 10 million. Okay, TISA company we don't mind. First we'll start with LFU. Okay, equity beta is 1.4. Estimated that the equivalent equity beta for its other activities. Okay, equity beta of other activities is given as 1.25. Okay, equity beta overall is 1.4, of other activities alone is 1.25. LFU company has 400 million 25-cent shares in issue, trading at 120 cents each. Okay, market value of equity is how much? 400 million, 4000 into 1.2, that's 4800. This entire values are in thousands, guys. Okay, the question is given in thousands, so I'm also solving in thousands. So market value of equity is 4800 thousands, that is 4.8 million, and it's okay. Its debt finance consists of variable rate loans redeemable in 7 years. The loan paying interest at base rate plus 120 basis points have a current value of 96 million. So that's what I need. Market value of debt is 96 million. $96 millions. Okay, this is millions, right? Again, let's do one thing. We'll solve this question in millions because all the values are given in millions. Although the question is given in cash flows are given in thousands again. Okay, that is anyways for TISA company, so it's fine. I will just make sure that you are mentioning it properly, and then this would be 480 only, 400 into 1.2. Okay, I think it should have been 48,000. Okay, whatever it is. So market value of debt is 96 now, and market value of equity is 480 million. Okay. Then 25 cents equity sharing at 120, loans paying interest at the rate current value of 96. It can be assumed that 80% of LFU's companies debt finance and 75% of LFU companies equity finance can be attributed to other activities excluding the component production. Okay, that means 20 and 25% is applicable for this activity, which comparable activity, and 80 and 75 are for other activities. Okay. Okay, so for this, we'll start with the asset beta calculations. We know the equity beta, we know the market value of equity, we know the market value of debt. So since we know all these three, we will calculate the asset beta, portfolio asset beta. So how do we do that? Is equal to market value of equity into beta of equity divided by market value of equity plus market value of debt into 1 minus tax rate. So here we'll start with that. So market value of equity is 480 million into equity beta is 1.4. That will be the numerator, divided by denominator would be market value of equity plus market value of debt into 1 minus tax rate. Tax rate is given in the question as 25%. So 0.25. Okay, please check the brackets very carefully, guys. So the portfolio of the asset beta is 1.21739. So I will just do a small thing here. I'll just round it off to 4 digits maybe. Okay, 1.2174. That will be the portfolio asset beta, 1.2174. Okay, but let's not stop there. What we will do is we will also calculate asset beta of other activities as well. Okay, because we are given that other activities use 80% of the debt finance and 75% of the equity finance. So I'll just do one thing here, other activities. So here I'll use the word portfolio. Okay, so market value, other activities use what? 85% of the equity finance. Okay, so that means into 85% of that, that is 408, and 80% of the debt is used. So is equal to this into 80%. That's 76.8. 85 or 75? 75. This is 75 here. Okay, 75 is 360 and 80% is 76.8. So let's calculate the asset beta of other activities as well. We can make slight change here. So since we anyway have this columns here, what I'll do is I'll just cut this thing here and paste it here and remove this line and change it to equity beta. So equity beta of portfolio is 1.4, equity beta of other activities is 1.25, and market value is 360 and 76 to 0.25. So here what I'll do is I'll remove this lines here and use the same formula here. So I will just shift it here, and yeah, there you go. I was just trying to make sure my convenience, that's all. So the asset beta for other activities would be 1.0776, or if I round it off to 3 decimals, then that would be 1.217 and 1.078. This is what your solutions would do. Mostly they'll round it off to 3 decimals. That's why I'm changing it to 3. But it's up to you. 3, 4, or even without rounding also you can do in Excel. No problem with that. Okay, so we now have the portfolio asset beta and other activities asset beta. So, and the proportionate of the distribution is what? 75% of the finance, right? Okay, so I'm assuming that 75 to 25 mix is applicable. So asset beta of the component would be what? If other activities are 75%, other activities are 75% and the component activity is 25%. So 1.078 into 75% plus whatever may be the asset beta of the component into 25%. Sum total should give you 1.217. Weighted average calculation, guys. Simple weighted average calculation. So I'll do that. Okay, if I'm assuming this is X here and this is 75% and this is 25%. So technically what will happen, 1.078 into 75% plus this, I'm assuming to be 1 for now. So this into 25%, this sum total should be equal to 1.217. That's what we are supposed to do. I hope you are able to understand what I'm trying to say. So if I do reverse calculation, the asset beta of this component will be 1.217 is equal to 1.078 into 75% plus whatever this is, x into 25%. So if I change that, if I reshuffle that, then x will be equal to 1.217 minus 1.078 into 25%. This will give me x into 25%. So this entire thing should be divided by 0.25. So this will give me the asset beta of the component as 1.634. Okay, I'm just, to be sure, I'm rounding it off to 3 decimals. What? Okay, 1.634 is what the asset beta of the similar component, assuming 75 to 25 percentage proportionate calculation is working out. Asset beta of the component is given. So let's calculate equity beta of TISACO, which is GED, right? So what is the TISA company's equity debt proportions? Here we have TISA company is having 10 million 50 cents shares, they're trading at 180 cents each. Loans have a current value of 3.6 million and an average after tax cost of debt is 4.5%. Capital structure is unlikely to change. So we will need market value of equity and market value of debt of TISA company. So I'm copying those two lines from there. Market value of equity, from the question we can see 10 million equity shares are there trading at 180 cents each. So that would be 10 million into 1.8, that is 18 million, that is the value of equity, and the market value of debt is directly given as 3.6. So I'm going to take 3.6. So asset beta comparable is how much? 1.634. We know that asset beta is calculated as market value of equity into beta of equity divided by market value of equity plus market value of debt into 1 minus tax rate, right? So I'm just gonna use another value here. Tax rate given is 75%. Sorry, 25%. 25%. Okay, so if I reshuffle the formula a little bit, I'll get that asset beta can be calculated, equity beta can be calculated as asset beta divided by market value of equity plus market value of debt into 1 minus 1 minus tax rate into market value of equity. Okay, so equity beta is calculated as 1.421. Sir, how are you doing this formula? Sir, don't worry, it's just your normal formula. Asset beta is equal to market value of equity into market value of, beta of equity. All that formula is there. The same formula I'm using, reshuffling a little bit. So you can see here, if I calculate asset beta now, market value of equity into beta of equity, this is the numerator, divided by denominator would be market value of equity plus market value of debt into 1 minus tax rate. Okay, why is the answer not matching? Equity beta equal to, shit. Okay, sorry. This is supposed to be multiplied and this is supposed to be divided. Okay. Yeah, now you can cross verify your answers are matching. I said beta 1.634, 1.634. This is just for your cross verification, guys, so that you and I are on the both on the same grounds. So equity beta would be 1.879. Okay, from this, can I calculate weighted average cost of capital? Can we calculate weighted average cost of capital? We know the equity beta, and we know that RF is 3.5 and RM minus RF is 5.8. So cost of equity, which is KE, can be calculated as RF, risk-free return is 3.5%, 0.35 plus beta into RM minus RF is given directly as 5.8%, so 0.058. This is also 0.035. Yeah. If we put it a percentage, so 14.4%, rounding it off to 4 decimals, so that, yeah, 14.4% would be the cost of equity. Cost of debt is given already. Cost of debt, KD, is already given, right? So cost of debt is after tax is given as 4.5%. Okay. So weighted average cost of capital based on the market values. So market value of equity is 18 million into cost of equity is 14.4 plus 3.6 into 4.5 divided by 18 plus 3.6. Please be very careful with respect to the brackets, otherwise you will be gone. So it is 12 point something, that is 13% approximately, or you can go with 12.75 also, no problem. Round to 2 decimals. I'm going to kill these people. Who asked you to put a paragraph there? C16 into C23 plus C17 into C24. Okay. Yeah, 12.75%. Okay, so that is your what weighted average cost of capital. So this is what is used for discounting. But don't stop there, sir, because the question very clearly states you that include all the relevant calculations and provide a reasoned estimate of the cost of capital. Okay, so fine, they're not asking for explanation, so this part is fine for 8 marks. Such easy calculations for 8 marks. This is something that we do on a regular basis, degearing the beta and then regearing it back. Something that we do on a very frequent basis. The only difference is that now they have given you that other activities and this component activity is separate. So you are separating it out. That's all, using weighted average calculations. Okay. Anyways, moving further. So what is the B part? Calculation of IRR and MIRR, right? If I'm not wrong. Calculate the IRR and MIRR of the process omega. Given that IRR and MIRR of process zeta are given, which process would you recommend and what is the explanation for your recommendation? So calculation of IRR of omega process. Okay, so first IRR, we know it's pretty straightforward. We are given with the years, we are given with the after tax cash flows. We'll calculate PVF at some percentage. Our weighted average cost of capital is 12.75, right? So I'll go with 10% and PV of cash flows and then NPV, and then this entire thing I'll also do for 15%, say, and then I'll calculate. Okay, so omega, okay, 1 0 1 2 3 4 is given, 0 1 2 3 4. Okay, after tax cash flows minus 3800, 1220, 1153, 1386 and 3829. Okay, PVF at 10%, 1 by 1.1, but just for the sake of it I'll do round down to 4 digits. Okay, PV of cash flows would be cash flows into PV factor, taking it to the right, and NPV is calculated. Okay, 1919 is the NPV. Okay, at 10% we are getting positive NPV. So let's check at 15%. 1 by 1.15, rounded to 4 decimals. Okay, PV of cash flows would be after tax cash flows multiplied by the PV factor, and PV would be, okay, still I'm getting a positive NPV at even at 15% also I'm getting positive NPV. So we will change this to 20%. Okay, okay, at 20% we are getting very close to okay, I'm not sure if it's very close or not. 25% if I'm using, okay, still positive is there, so let's make this as 25. So this is the advantage of doing on Excel, and let's make this 30. Okay, cool, we'll go with 30. Negative आ जाएगा. Yes, okay. So at 25 we are getting positive cash flows, at 30 we are getting negative cash flows. So somewhere between 25 and 30 we have our IRR. Okay, just to make sure my answer is more accurate, I'll do 1.27 also. Okay, so positive I'm having. So I'll go with 28. So between 27 and 28, that would be my answer. I can do this all days, guys. So I'll stop there. I'll take this as 27. Okay, so somewhere between 27 and 28. I'll get very close, very accurate answer if I do that. I can go with 20 and 30 also. Still I'll get the answer, but there will be slight difference between that when I do the interpolation technique. So NPV at 27% would be 24, and NPV at 28% would be minus 55. So for 1% increase in the discounting factor, the NPV has dropped down by 24 minus of minus 55, that is 79%. So for 24 change, how much do we need? So that would be 1% into 24 divided by 79, which is some value. I'm not sure what is that. So I'll just take it there. So 0.27 plus this one, if I put it as a percentage, 27.3%. That is your IRR, guys. IRR of Omega is 27.3. WACC is 12.75. IRR is 27.3. And they're also giving you that IRR of Zeta is 26.6, which is nice. Okay. IRR of Zeta is 26.6%. So technically, Omega has higher IRR. That means omega is better there. Comparing the IRR, omega is better, and omega IRR is greater than WACC also. Sir, WACC is only 12 point something something, 12.75, whereas IRR is 27.3, which is more than double. So there also omega is better, but we have to check your MIRR as well. Okay, so we are also required to calculate MIRR. So let's go ahead and do the MIRR calculation. MIRR is just a formula, so I'll just use it here. So MIRR is calculated as PV of returns divided by PV of investment, right? Yeah, PV of investment divided by PV of returns raised to the power of 1 by, wait a second, shit, what am I doing? Okay, PV of returns divided by PV of investment, returns by investment, right? Okay, raised to the power of 1 by n multiplied by 1 plus WACC minus 1. Okay, that would be the formula for MIRR. So MIRR, I'll calculate PV of returns. Okay, we don't have PV of returns. We don't have PV at the weighted average cost of capital. So just for the sake of doing MIRR, what I will do is I'll copy these things, paste it here, and what we'll do is 13%. Now, what was the weighted average cost of capital? WACC is 12.75%. So we'll do it at 12.75%. 1.1275. Okay, and PV is 1525. Okay, so that means the PV of returns would be how much? 1525 plus 3800. So returns ma NPV is 1500, matlab returns are this much. What? 5325. I'll do like that, is equal to numerator. Again, I'll have to put a, yeah, sum of these 4 years returns, that is the PV of returns, divided by PV of investment is minus 3800. This is the power, in the brackets value, raised to the power of 1 by 4. N is 4 here, 4 years, so n by 4, 1 by n, that is 1 by 4. That will be the first part of the calculation, multiplied by 1 plus WACC, 1 plus 12.75 percentage minus 1. So that is giving me 0.23. If I put it as a percentage, that is approximately 22.6725 percentage. Yeah, 22.6725 percentage. 4 would be more than it. Okay. Okay. Sir, for those of you who did not understand MIRR, please recall your concept, guys. MIRR is basically, under IRR, we always assume that the periodical cash inflows, in this case, this 961, 715, 677, 1472, these periodical cash flows, or basically this after tax cash flows, not the present values, 1220, 1153, 1360, 1386 and 3829, these are reinvested at the IRR. For IRR, the assumption is that the periodical intermediate cash flows are reinvested at the IRR, whereas for MIRR, the what do you call it, the assumption is that the periodical cash flows are reinvested at cost of capital, not at the IRR. That's why we are using the cost of capital here, weighted average cost of capital I'm taking. Okay, so for MIRR, the assumption is that the reinvestment is made at cost of capital and not IRR. Okay, so MIRR of Zeta will be given in the question as MIRR is 26.6 and 23.3. Okay, 23.3 percentage. So technically here MIRR of Zeta is showing better, but that is just due to your calculation rounding of issues or something like that. Technically it should be MIRR of Omega only should be higher, but that's fine. Don't worry about the numbers. You can go ahead with your answer. Absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. No, don't worry about it. So just give the assumption that MIRR is calculated on the basis of the assumption that the periodical investments or the periodical returns are reinvested at the cost of capital of the company. Whereas for IRR, we assume that the reinvestments are made at the IRR of the company, IRR of the project, whatever you want to call it as, project or the company, whatever you want to write as. Okay, so the next part of the question, so that ends us for the 16 marks. So the 16 marks part is completed here. So the rest of the part is regarding the where. So you can see here, estimate the project's value at risk at 99% confidence level for 1 year, and over the project's life of 5 years, explain what it is meant by the answers which are obtained. So this is just for 4 marks. So don't try to spend too much time on this. The problem with this particular part is even me as a faculty could not do this in your examination if this question comes. Sir, what are you saying? Yes, even as a faculty, I also cannot answer this question in the examination hall. Sir, why, sir? Because they have just given me the standard deviations, whereas I also need the variance covariance table to figure out what is the multiplication factor that I need to take. So the multiplication factor is not given in the question. It is supposed to be given. This could be taken as an examiner's mistake. We need the multiplication factor that is to be given. But based on our previous experiences, based on our past track record, we know that for 99% confidence level, the variance covariance multiplicity would be 2.33. Sir, how would I know? See, based on your practice, you should know that. Or if you don't know it, don't worry. Just explain what where is and explain what 99% confidence level for 1 year would be and 99% confidence level for 5 years would be. Without any numbers, you will be still given at least 2 marks. Okay, sir, why are you giving us these kind of explanations? Because that is the best that we can do out of a scenario. Sir, they are asking you a question without giving you all the relevant information. So from that, what you can do is whatever is available, use that and explain whatever is possible. Okay, so usually what is where stands for value at risk. A 99% confidence level would say that basically the profits or the cash flows at any given point of time shall not go below the expected level. Sir, what is the expected level? That is 800,000 of standard deviation into 2.33. Okay, so let me just show you. So see where at 99% confidence level. Okay, so where at 99% confidence level, standard deviation is given as, annual standard deviation is given as 800,000, and average annual return on this particular project is 2.2 million. Okay, let's just check. So where at 99%. Okay, See, this is what I was trying to tell you guys. If you are willing to assume a normal distribution further, then it is easy to convert one horizon or confidence level from standard normal tables, that is your Z table. We know that 95% one-tailed var corresponds to 1.645 and the var at 99% var corresponds to 2.326 times sigma. Okay, so this is basically from your Z table, which you guys are not expected to do, but just in case if you want to, you can figure it out that var, okay, at 99% confidence level is equal to 2.33 multiplied by this standard deviation sigma. You can see here times sigma. So 2.326 or 2.33, anything is fine, or I'll go with 2.326 to be more precise. Okay, that means your max loss with just 1% chance is 1860800. Sir, what does that mean? How do I interpret that? How do I write it as a sentence? So in a 1 year time span, the maximum loss in the returns can be 1860800 with just a probability of 1% of happening, of that happening. There is only 1% chance that the maximum losses go beyond 1860800. That is a phrase, okay? 1% chance that maximum loss in returns go beyond 1860800. That is what this var stands for. Okay, cool. And sir, what about 5 years var, sir? Okay, so var for 5-year period, again this is not covered for you in your syllabus, but just for your information sake. So for multiple period, what we'll do is this value into square root of t, we will do that. Okay, so that would be var given into square root of SQRT, square root of t. What is the time frame given here? 5 years, so 5. Or 5 power 1 by 2 is also fine, ma. So that is 4160,875. So maximum loss over a 5-year time span could be 41,60,000 or else 4.160 million. Okay, maximum loss in the returns. Or else I can also say minimum returns with 99% confidence can be taken as how much? So 2.2 million minus 1.86 million, that is there is 99% chance that the returns will be a minimum of 3.39 or more than that. Okay, similarly here also minimum returns with 99% confidence can be calculated as into 5 minus that, so 6839 125. Okay, now you might ask me, sir, but we don't know this 2.326 wala logic na, sir, then what are we supposed to do? Don't worry, ma, just explain that to the examiner that we need to know the Z table to know the, we need to know the Z value to know this particular var, but var at any given point in time is basically the given confidence level, the value that the loss, the maximum loss can go beyond the given value, the probability of that and all that stuff. You can explain using these two phrases. Okay, similar to these two phrases, you can explain your var related answer. Okay, then what? Apart from the use of var, briefly explain, okay, estimated, simulation analysis, expected value calculation. Let me just open the answer and we can compare that. Give me a second, I'll open the answer. Okay, let's compare our answers one by one, step by step. So first, 1.217 is what? Asset beta, 1.217 asset beta. Then 1.078 asset beta of other activities, 1.078 other activities. Component asset beta is 1.634. Component asset beta is 1.634. Component equity beta on TESA's capital structure is 1.879. 1.879, perfect. Next, using CAPM model, weighted average cost of capital is 12.75. They are rounding it off to 13, but we are sticking to 12.75% of weighted average cost of capital. Next one, Omega's IRR calculation. So they have taken 13% and 20%. Sir, even I started with the 10% and 20% only. To be very honest with you, I started with the 10 and 20, but then I closed it down. I closed the gap to 27 and 28. But even if I leave it like that, I told you the values would be slightly changed. Okay, so don't worry about that. So for them, they are getting IRR of 25.6, which is bad. We are getting 27.3. Okay, there is around 2% of IRR difference because they are taking huge gap. See that 13 also NPV is positive, 20 also NPV is positive. They are doing two positive values and they are interpolating that, and actual IRR is 27.3. Because they are doing it with such huge gap and taking two positive NPVs, they are getting wrong answer here. To be very honest, this is not right. To check that, what you can do is you can use 25.6% discounting factor and calculate the present value of cash flows. NPV will not be zero. But here you can check NPV is very close to zero. Already NPV is very close to zero, 24 and 55. So our answer is absolutely correct. So don't worry about that difference. And then MIRR is present value of returns by present value of investment. I got confused a little. It is returns by investment or investment by return. Sorry for that. But return by investment raised to the power of 1 by n, raised to the power of 1 by n into 1 plus WACC minus 1. Sir, here they are writing it as return on equity, but you take WACC now. That is more appropriate. So I took WACC directly here. And MIRR for me is 22.67. Whereas they are getting 22.7. Sir, 22.67 is rounded off to 22.7, so that's absolutely fine. And IRR is on the assumption that reinvestment earn at the same rate as IRR, whereas MIRR assumes that reinvestment is made at cost of capital. That's what I told you, which is more reasonable. So if I'm going with MIRR of Zeta is more than MIRR of Omega. Sir, please check that. If we check Zeta's MIRR is more than Omega's MIRR, so it's better we go with Zeta if we take MIRR as the deciding factor. See, process Zeta should be adopted as a result, although the difference between two projects is not so significant. Sir, but I would write a different answer. I would say that MIRR of Omega and Zeta are very close to each other with just what is the difference, sir, there? What's the difference? It's very minute difference of just 0.63%. It's less than 1% of the difference. But considering IRR of Zeta and Omega, there also the gap is very less. Look at that. Even IRR also 0.7, only the difference. So it doesn't really matter. These both are almost all similar to each other. So you can say that we are indifferent between these two, or slightly we are inclined towards Zeta or something like that. Absolutely fine, ma. Absolutely fine. Next one. Okay, this part you can see here at a 99% confidence level requires the VAR to be within 2.33 standard deviations from the mean based on a single tail measure. Sir, what is this single tail measure? That is your Z table. Ma. So annual VAR would be 2.33 into 800, that is 1864. 1864 because they took 2.33. We took 2.326. More accurate answer. 1860, 1864. 5 years into 5 power 0.5. What is this 5 power 0.5, sir? 0.5 means 1 by 2. 1 by 2 means basically is the square root. That's what I did here. Square root of t. T is 5 years, so square root of t we took. They put it as 0.5. Absolutely fine. They could have just given more clarification to the students, but yeah, it's okay. So 4.168031. So LFU can be 99% confident that the cash flows will not fall more than 1864 in any 1 year or 4168 in total 5 years period. This means that it can be 99% sure that the returns will be at least 2. Okay, sir, isn't that what we just wrote here? Minimum returns with 99% confidence that minimum of 339,200 we will get. They got 336 because they took 2.33. Okay. This is more important, guys. And then coming to this alternative techniques, Risk is commonly dealt using expected value. It involves assigning probabilities. Drawback is that assignment of probabilities is highly subjective. It is also not suitable for one-off projects. Expected value is only suitable when you do it on a multiple times, on a multiple basis. Sir, I covered that with lots of explanation in our regular classes, how the probabilities works and all that stuff. Please go back and refer to this. It's almost all 40 minutes of explanation on how expected values are appropriate and when they are not appropriate. I did that, so let's not worry about it. It also does not indicate the maximum loss or the probability of maximum loss. And then we can also do sensitivity analysis. But sensitivity analysis means one factor at a time we will take, assuming that the rest of the factors are constant, right? So the main drawback here that the variables are looked at in isolation. That means one at a time we will take. We will not consider the impact of one changing variable over the other changing variables when we do sensitivity analysis. We can also use payback and discounted payback to identify how long we are going to get the returns. But the drawback is that what happens after the payback period is not considered. This is something that we covered in our regular classes, like in the basic topic itself. So these are all pretty straightforward according to me. So I hope you guys have a better understanding of VAR and better understanding of how to deal with situations relating to VAR and capital investment and appraisal techniques, right? So that's it for this video, guys. I'll see you soon with another lecture as soon as possible. The solutions, the question and the Excel sheet will be given in the description, so you can click on the link and you can download that. See you soon, guys. Bye-bye.